This is Fred Beck from Fred Beck Fighting, proudly sponsored by Empire Fight Store. And today I'm very lucky, joined by Leo from Low Blow Boxing. Leo, how you doing, mate?
Good. How you doing, Fred?
Yeah, all good. So what I'll do, I'll ask you about your TikTok and we'll talk about a bit about boxing. Obviously, got a big boxing fight at the weekend. So we just talk about touching on TikTok first and foremost. How did you kind of get into it? How did you get started doing that?
Yeah, so it's weird because I didn't really intend to start doing these videos with my face in them, talking about the fights. Originally, it was a boxing page, and it stemmed from my interest in boxing, obviously fighting in the amateurs and whatnot. I originally was doing videography content on TikTok, and I realized there weren't really many people doing boxing. So I tried it out. I don't know when it was. It must have been, it was January 2020. So nearly 2 years now, but I had a different account back then. And I just started talking about boxing. My first video was like Ryan Garcia and Manny Pacquiao's fight, funnily enough. So yeah, that's how I got my start. And then it's been going well since then.
Yeah, I remember about that fight. That was when Ryan Garcia was coming off his win against Luke Campbell. And obviously
Exactly.
he was like one of the biggest stars in the sport at that. I guess he kind of still is now, but especially then he was like really trending and the Manny Pacquiao fight was in talks. But how did you get new ideas for TikToks? How did you come up with them? Do you kind of focus on what's trending, what's happening in the boxing world? How did you get ideas for it?
I just think about stuff I would have wanted to know when I was boxing, actually. I always thought there wasn't really that many people covering like how to train if you're a boxer. It was either you do bodybuilding workouts or you do calisthenics. There wasn't really that athletic performance training stuff. I know now you've got is his name Wilson from Boxing
I
Science.
think
He's
so, yeah.
really good. I love his content on like plyometric stuff. So I really enjoy doing that. And then I do a bit of news, maybe a bit of what's trending, but generally content that you could watch 5 years from now, storytelling, workout routines, all that stuff, everything boxing really.
And how long does it make you to make one TikTok, or does it kind of vary of how much is going into it?
Yeah, so if it's like a reel or a TikTok, it will generally take it depends on it always depends. Like if it's a longer story, like we were just talking about with the Haymon situation, when you're doing your research and maybe there's not even that much to cover, I'll write my script. It's basically like writing an article, then you film it and then you edit it. So it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 hours, I'd say, like all in all.
Was that Haymon one quite difficult to prepare for? Because it's not, he hasn't done many interviews. He's quite a secretive kind of person, isn't he?
Yeah, that's just why I guess there was still with that video, there was that element of mystique. And he's still like a really mysterious character.
He kind of stays behind the scenes. Not many people know. I remember Eddie Hearn telling a story about, I think it was James DeGale boxed on a PVC card. And then I think James DeGale was being, is it signed?
No, not signed. Maybe one day, but yeah, I've got his book. He's actually got a really good book, so his story is really out there, whereas other promoters aren't. And even managers, advisors, like you got like the Leonard Ellerbys, no one knows. That will come next. I'll do a video on that, but very few people know where he even came from. He claims he's got like a degree in all this, like business and all that stuff, but nothing's really actually recorded. So I think he was a pilot at one point. He's obviously came from a poverty, an impoverished background. So yeah, he's really interesting too. Frank Warren, everyone knows his story. Everyone in Britain knows the Frank Warren kind of story, and the Barry Hearn, him being an accountant and then transitioning into boxing, all that stuff. He wasn't a bus driver at one point, was he?
I think Eddie Hearn's grandpa was a bus driver.
His grandpa was a bus driver. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it. So he also came from a council estate in, what was it, Romford?
Yeah.
So
I think it was that area. I'm not sure exactly Romford, but it's that type of area. It was somewhere in London, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, so as I was saying, because James DeGale, they're like, oh yeah, we got Al Haymon on the phone, and then he got the phone, and then he was like, oh wow, because when Al Haymon talks to you, you either respect, you listen, because I guess he doesn't give his time up for many fights. Well, he obviously did his time up, but I doubt he talks to a lot of fighters because he's kind of so behind the scenes. You never see much of him. Anyway, but there's big fights boxing this weekend. You got Kell Brook and Amir Khan. We've been putting a few TikToks out about that, so that'll be trending quite a lot. The press conference was today as well.
Yeah, I got some cool stuff coming out on that about their long lasting feud, why the rivalry was even there. I saw a brilliant documentary made by like just a random producer, which really got me amped up for the fight. Because before it was a bit naff, wasn't it? You know, they've made this fight. It should have been made in 2015. So it's like 7 years late. And I thought
The fight was actually talked about 17 years ago. It was first brought up, I think, in boxing news.
they were both amateurs.
Yeah, they were talking about it then when they're both still amateurs. Now, it's a long time.
I mean when it could have happened. Like
Yeah.
7 years ago, it actually could have happened with Frank Warren. Of course, they're like yin and yang, aren't they? Because one had to build their career under the dim lights. You know, Kell Brook, you know, he had to do it on the small hall shows, and then Amir Khan just straight into the Olympics, Athens, this huge event, and then instantly became like a national treasure. So I think it's really interesting. And, you know, obviously you're going to ask me about my prediction, but yeah, I'm really excited for the fight. And I really wasn't before, but this week got me, and the gloves are off episode was so funny.
Yeah, well, loads of people were saying about Ade or Depot, who was always saying that, watch how so many people act like they're not interested about it or aren't really interested. But as soon as fight week arrives, they do all the kind of the media stuff, public workouts, gloves are off, that sort of thing. That all gets released. Then everyone will really get amped up for it. Have you just back on your TikTok? Do you ever do any live streams on TikTok at all?
I don't, but I used to have a podcast which we just revamped. Actually, I'm literally editing that tonight with Hot Boxing Minute. He's based in San Diego. We both met because we were like the only two really boxing creators, whatever you want to call it, on TikTok. So we're both doing short form content. And yeah, we started a podcast called Across the Pond.
That's a good name.
Yeah. So it's really cool because he's got that audience from America and he really represents out there. You know, he talks about wanting to give exposure to some of the smaller fighters too. So yeah, we got some big plans for that. He was on live with Ryan Garcia the other day. So we were talking about getting Garcia on. I think he knows Nikita Ababi. So who knows, you might see a couple episodes with people, but for now, yeah, we just talk boxing. So that's the closest I've done, but I've gone live like once. I don't do that.
And how can people watch that podcast when it arrives? It will be on YouTube?
So I'm not sure. I think for me, I'm just going to do Instagram, exclusively Instagram for the podcast, maybe TikTok, but we're going to give it to his TikTok. So we're going to make them clips. And I think, you know, we'll probably put them on YouTube too. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be quite good. That's a really good name because obviously you're over here in the UK and he's in the US. That's a great name for the podcast. I mean, Teddy Atlas always says, oh yeah, for my good friends in the UK across the pond. And I'll start saying a bit more on the interviews as well. But anyway, let's touch on the fight this weekend, Kell Brook and Amir Khan. How do you see the fight playing out? Obviously, it's a 149. I think the rehydration clause is like £10 more.
I feel like Kell Brook actually will be, because it was obviously Kell who would have had the weight issue, but I feel like he'll be all right. He's been training for 7 months. He's known about this fight for 7 months. So I think he's been in shape and he's clearly very motivated. So I think weight won't be an issue. But they're obviously both past it, and everyone, you know, talks about Amir Khan's chin and him being easy to knock out. But Kell Brook also is quite, you know, vulnerable in terms of punch resistance. If this was a few years ago, I would have Kell Brook 100% based on the whole timing beats speed argument and other factors in that he's a switch fighter, and I just think he could have caused Amir Khan problems. But I think it can go either way. But if I had to bet on it, I'd probably go Amir Khan.
Do you think my stoppage decision?
I think it would be. I think he might knock him down. I think he'll get a 10-8 rounds, and I really wouldn't have said. I can't believe I'm saying this, to be honest, but I think he will get a 10-8 rounds. But again, it's so difficult. This is why it's such an interesting fight. I don't know. I think both of them could go down, and I think once one of them's equilibrium is gone, you know, the fight is over. So I think Amir Khan training with Terence Crawford, Bomac, I don't know. They're not going to be in the ring for him, but I could see Amir Khan getting the stoppage.
Do you think I remember when I spoke to Aaron Smith, he said there's a rematch. So if Amir Khan wins, do you think he'll give Kell a rematch? Because I don't think he would. But if Kell won, do you think there'd be a rematch?
Yeah, 100%. And I really think there might be. That's what, again, if Kel wins, it's more exciting because it could end up being a trilogy. A lot of people aren't thinking about that, but the interest is quite high for it. Although people have given it so much slack, if it's a really good fight, it could end up being a trilogy, which is crazy to think. And people will say that I'm crazy, but you know, if Kell Brook wins, Amir Khan's going to want a rematch, unless it's like a bad loss where he's like, okay, I'm done. But yeah, I don't know. It will be really interesting to see. It's a shame that the fight isn't happening when the two are in their respective peaks, you know?
Yeah, but at least it's happening though. At least it eventually happened.
I'm happy it's happening, but at the end of the day, it's not nice to see two fighters pass their sell-by date.
I can see what you mean. How old is? I'm thinking Amir Khan's 35. How old's Kel? Is he around 33?
35. They're both
35.
Yeah.
But Leo's great talking to you. I'm sure we'll catch up later this year. I'll try and get you on. I'll try and get you on in a few months' time. But I'll put your TikTok link in the description. But where else can people find you social media wise?
Instagram, not even TikTok. I'm trying to build the Instagram.
Oh, I'll put all your links in there. So you've got Instagram, TikTok, what else? YouTube?
Yeah, just those two for now.
Thanks for your time. We'll catch up soon then, mate.
No problem.